G'day guys, welcome back to a new episode of the Boundary Riders podcast, episode 143, and pre-season's just getting underway and it is injuries galore, so we're going to be covering that this episode. Going to be taking a look at the SSP hopefuls, as looks like there's a lot of chances that are going to be on the horizon very soon, and of course much more. So let's roll the intro and get straight into it. Welcome to the Boundary Riders podcast, your one-stop shop for all your AFL content needs. He looks at his options and Jack Ginnivan says, boys, you brought me to the club to do justice! But this guy has flog written all over him.
From attack down, Reed sprints away from Petrarca, leaves him in his wake, takes a second bounce, takes a third. The sheer arrogance of Harley Reid. Finish the job, young man!
So let's get into the footy news from the week that was. So guys, as always, my brother is here to join me, and one thing we can say so far is, well, actually no, I can say, hasn't been too many injury concerns on our teams.
No, we've Porter's only had one, and he's up and developing, but he's
It's not one of the big guys.
It's not the big, the big guy, the most valuable player for us. So at the moment.
Yeah, there's no Zach Butter, there's no Connor Rosie, Jason Francis or anything like that. So Port Adelaide looking pretty good. Sydney haven't had any sort of injury update since I think Taylor Adams, which was about 3 or 4 weeks ago. But that's not really the best team.
And that's just bound to happen. He's been very injury prone the last 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, and then you got Cal Mills, which was November-ish. So Sydney have been okay. I've just jinxed both of us, I think. Knock on wood, throw some salt over the left shoulder.
Next week it's just going to be an all Port and Swans injury carnage.
Yeah, well, it's been a terrible day. Like, we had a couple of days off on the weekend. The players don't go. And then as soon as training hits on Monday, we've seen 2 injury concerns. And the major one we'll start with, which is obviously recording on Monday, Dan Curtin. So, went down at training after his captain, by the way, tackled him to the ground in like a wrestling drill or something. And Dan Curtin, obviously, everyone went to the worst case scenario because he clutched at his knee, thought it was an ACL. It's not an ACL. It looks like he's dislocated his kneecap, which sounds like, if I had to hear, like, if I didn't really know much about medical stuff, I feel like a dislocated kneecap is a lot worse than an ACL. Like, what's that? But apparently a dislocated kneecap isn't as bad. So that's one of the better case scenarios. Like, a jarring prop would have been a lot better, but what I'm reading from early looks, not really like massive research, we're looking at still 2 to 3 months.
Yeah, I think that it's not great for a kid who's pretty much came on the scene last year, especially. He was up there with the Rising Star voting, and this looked like his season to get that real good midfield position.
I thought that he was going to break out this year and be the Crows. I thought he could be like their next A grader.
Yeah.
They need that more. They didn't pick up anyone in the trade period that was going to fill a role in that midfield. They needed someone to go in there. They went after Petrarca, didn't get him. And Dan Curtin looked like that prototype that was like, okay, Jordan Dawson needs someone to go with him. He's the guy. And now he's not going to be there for, at the very least, the start of the season. And, hopefully the kneecap gets put back in place pretty quickly. Apparently he's going for scans on Tuesday. So this will be coming out Wednesday morning. I'm assuming you guys will know by now. But not great. And for a guy who we were, expecting to do big things this year, like I was picking him as like an All-Australian, first-time All-Australian. It's going to be tough for him to do it from here. Maybe he'll get back like early rounds. Maybe he makes it for a late preseason, but it's going to be tough for him to make it and have an impact in the first, I wouldn't say first half of the season, but definitely the first quarter of the season. It's going to be tough for him to have a meaningful impact for the Crows.
Yeah, you've seen that these sort of injuries, in preseason, they do hamper the person sometimes for the entire year, and when especially like a Dan Curtin, who they had such high hopes for and was basically going to be that player to help out Jordan Dawson. How much does that affect Adelaide's structure? Even though they do have a couple months before they play their first game, they were going to put a lot of hopes in him. So
he would have definitely been in the frame of we're going to build around this guy. he's the prototype. Like, he was playing on the wing for a lot of the year last year, but he's got the running capacity to run all day. If he's playing on the wing, he can kick goals. He's got that body type of like we say Dawson, who's got big body type, but also can move. He's very silky with the football.
Yeah.
And now that's not fully gone, but you have to find someone else now who's going to play that role. And they're very thin through the middle. Now, I've seen that Josh Rochelli's ran through the midfield a little bit through pre-season for Adelaide. Rankin seems to have moved more forward again, but he could obviously go through there if need be. And obviously had a very good campaign for the Crows. Going to miss round one, but everyone's like, oh, he's going to miss the grand final. He's missing round one now, so he can get over it. But it's going to be very interesting how the Crows line up in the first couple of rounds of the year, especially if we're looking at like 2 to 3 months for Dan Curtin at this moment.
Yeah.
And then we saw Will Day, a couple of days last week, of course, late last week. He's out for up to 2 to 3 months after he dislocated his shoulder. It was a shoulder that he's hurt in the past, so not great, especially for Will Day. Like, just can't get on the park. I mean, it could be. Hopefully, I hate these words, but this could be one of the all-time like big Kane Corns saying here, wasted careers. This could be a big wasted career for Will Day. He has so much potential, but just can't stay out there.
Yeah, it's a luck story, to be honest, and it's just you want this kid to show an entire season what he's got, because if he shows that he's an Australian, he can bring that Hawthorn team to the promised land in a way.
Well, he's the one who can get them from a team that made a prelim last year to a grand final and potentially go all the way.
Yeah.
He's the guy who can do it. And now they've lost James Worpley, obviously went to Geelong. They were without Will Day now.
Yeah.
Their midfield starts to get thin now. They've got McKenzie, who they kept. They've got Henry Huswaite, who they kept, even though they kind of wanted to get rid of him for Zach Merritt. They've got Josh Ward, who had a good end to the season last year. But it kind of thins out at that point.
Yeah, after the Newcomb as well. Like, they've got, I
was thinking more like, like on the outer a little bit, but yeah.
Yeah, as you said, it goes thin, and it goes thin pretty quickly because Hawthorn put all their eggs in the Merritt basket, and they didn't get him, and then they were relying on it, Will Day, who hasn't played a full season, I don't think, in his career, to be honest.
Yeah.
I don't think he's played a full year. So
we saw the potential of him basically day dot of 2025 when he played against the Swans and was an absolute standout.
Yeah.
Absolutely dominated against Sydney in that first half, took the game away from them. Sydney had to tag him, and they probably wouldn't have even... I wouldn't have said, not even thought about it, but like he just came out of nowhere. We're like, okay, this is the Will Day that we're going to see this season. There's a chance he could even go and win the Brownlow. And then obviously there was an injury, and then he had issues, but then he came back and he was still very good as well. But just the consistency and we need some Will Day. We need him back.
Yeah.
Now, there was another injury concern that came out just today. Hard luck story in Braden George, latest soft tissue victim in the AFL with a hamstring at North Melbourne. So this guy suffered a second ACL last year, missed the entire campaign. It was a pretty high draft pick, like in the 20 to 30 range. Just can't get a go for North, and it does bring up the question. I know everyone wants to bag on Kane Corns, and trust me, no one loves it. I don't think anyone really loves him in the AFL space a lot of the time, but I think he's starting to come up with a pretty decent point around players taking too much time off. I mean, they obviously need their time off. I don't think anyone's disregarding that, unless you're like a fuckwit who's like 80 years old. It's like, oh, they play football all day. They can fucking do it 24/7. But most people, it's starting to become a pattern that we're seeing an injury on the daily now in this, January, February, as we're starting to get towards the season. And teams are starting to not be prepared for the first couple of rounds. I know that teams obviously struggle in the first couple of games in match simulations because they're just getting back into football, and you see some sloppy errors and that. But we're seeing injuries, and not even just really tough ones. Like Dan Curtin's is like an incident that it's just accidental. But soft tissue stuff is more maintenance of your body.
Yeah,
and I mean, obviously we're not doctors here, but it does bring up. I think it brings up a pretty fair point that maybe players are taking too much time off.
You could say that, but it's also the fact is that because they take so much time off, and then they come back for pre-season in November, and December. Then they had to take 2-3 weeks off over the Christmas period. That also doesn't help them. Obviously, you're not going to work over the Christmas period. 90% of people don't.
Except for you.
Yeah, except for me.
And,
not the point.
And the Australian cricket team every year.
And everyone. But that sort of intensity of the like grueling hours in summer in Australia doesn't help when you take off 3 weeks over the Christmas period and then come straight back into it.
Yeah.
Like, even though that obviously the players are keeping their fitness up and all that sort of shit, there's a whole different ball game when it comes to actually doing it at your training facility.
Oh yeah, definitely.
You know,
but I mean, when you're doing like training outside of the club, I'm assuming not many of them are going and bloody doing full on tackle drills all the time.
Yeah.
And yeah, I definitely agree with that. And I think I did see someone in a comment section, I can't remember what it was, but a lot of people were saying, like a couple of people were saying like maybe the season should be pushed back a month. So there's a lot less issues like when it comes to the actual season, because now it starts to get hotter. Like it's still pretty hot around March period now. That we're even into April. I remember last year in Gather Round, it was like in the 30s for one of those days. Like we don't usually see a 30-degree day around April, but now we are. And because like maybe it would be an okay idea that we push it back a month. I know everyone would hate that idea. We want football now, obviously. Like we've got end of the cricket season. We're like these 50 days of like, oh, there's no fucking sport on. Like, yeah, you got the A-League, but I mean, who's fucking watching the A-League? The Big Bash. Yeah, I mean, you can watch the rest of the Big Bash, but it's kind of getting to the end now as well, so that's not going to be covering one more week. We've got a bit of Premier League soccer, but unless you have Stan, yeah, you can't really watch that either. You know, you watch the NBL, but again, who really gives a shit?
Yeah,
there's kind of that dead period now, so people want sport, and I understand that football's like the big one here in Australia, but it does bring up maybe the heat factor that is probably causing a lot of like stress on the body, obviously, and then that's causing injury too.
Well, obviously, like the AFL, Brisbane and like WA always have hot weather in this time of the year, and that's why, especially around March, and that's why they've. I know Queensland teams have in the past said we don't want to play day games because it is so hot and it's going into the mid to early to mid 30s, and you don't want to play that on a Sunday or a Saturday afternoon. So that's why they're things like that. If you give it another say a month, you may avoid that. Yeah. So it is hard, and you know. Maybe an extra month of pre-season coming out of the summer, the holiday period, will give them a chance to maybe you get a few injuries as you normally would, but you've got time to recover and then come back into it.
Yeah. Well, it will be very interesting as the season goes on early, because we're seeing injuries on the daily, and I'd be very surprised. Like now, you kind of expect an injury to come up. Like, you expect a Cal Toomey update or a Mitch Cleary update, or what in the South Australia got Josh Money and Brendan Ingram, I think they are. But you're expecting it now, so I wouldn't be too surprised if this comes out on Wednesday. We're recording this Monday afternoon. There could be a bunch more on Tuesday.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised at all. I posted the video today about injury updates, but I made that on Sunday, and then we have a big one of Dan Curtin. There's nearly an ACL. Now it's at least a dislocated knee. This is going to be a couple of months. So I don't know where it goes from here. Hopefully, I mean, look, since Graham Swans came in, he's made some big changes in the AFL. We saw a bunch of rule changes already. Maybe that's something that they have to discuss. It's usually something they have to do with the AFLPA as well, and it's a whole fuck around. Don't envy his job, but yeah, I mean, it'll be very interesting what happens in the next couple of next month or so as we get towards the match simulations.
Yeah.
Speaking of, I guess, rule changes in general, apparently the AFL clubs are weighing up the idea of using their fifth player on the interchange bench as a pseudo sub. So at the end of the end of the season, that was the last season that we have the sub rule. Obviously, everyone knows the sub rule by now. It was scrapped. The AFL coaches hated it. But now, clubs are thinking about using this as like a pseudo sub instead of using it as like a fifth player rotation. So I'd be very interested to see which clubs are going to be thinking of doing this.
I actually like the idea. I know that it's a very bad, but if you think about it, it can work out in your favour really well. Because if you say like you keep a Dangerfield or a Pendlebury on the bench all day, then the third quarter hits and you're like, fuck, we're going to release him. Go for two quarters. But then for that player that you've taken off, a young player, comes off. But then you get an injury to a player in the fourth quarter, chuck him back in. So it's not the worst thing in the world, which I think it can work in a way. But I think, as you've said, it's like it kind of seems stupid to announce that you're not going to have a sub and then say you're going to have a sort of a sub in a way.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting that the clubs were like, I think they just wanted the restriction pulled out. That's probably what they mean. They want the restriction of like a player being like held on, and then you sub him out, and then like we've seen so many times
Like
a player gets injured.
2 minutes later, and it's like,
Yeah. I mean, maybe they should. I mean, I get it. And it'll be interesting to see, like, your scenario. But then you think about it with, like, Lachie Neale in the grand final. Like, they kept him off until halftime and then they sprung him on. So the sub rule did work in that favour. But, yeah, I mean, with the injury, I guess, yeah, there is a lot of scenarios when teams, like, lose a player just after using their sub. So I guess that's going to be an interesting idea. I wouldn't be too surprised if that's how clubs start to do it. But I also think as well, if you're a club that's holding back a player... but then another team's like, okay, we're going to just use our full 23. Now, you don't get any extra rotations on the interchange bench. I think it's still 75.
Yeah.
But having 23 players compared to 22, does that, like, that would be interesting to see, like, the dynamics of that, like, in the AFL. Like, if a coach is like, I want to use 23, so then all of a sudden you've held back a player, the game's close, you suddenly get to release the player with 23, that fifth player who hasn't had a minute of game time. Maybe he comes on, has an absolute blinder in the second half and then takes the game away. Or, for example, the 23 players, they've blitzed you early because blitzed you in the first half because they've had that extra rotation player while another one's not. It'd be interesting to see if the different mind games the AFL teams try to use with that.
And you think that, the teams like Sam Mitchell or Chris Scott, Craig McRae, they're the players, they're the teams that will find out a different way of doing it. And you'll see like the lesser likes, like the West Coast, they will play their 23 because they'll want to play their whole team and not hamper a rookie and want to just chuck him straight in the AFL system.
Yeah.
But the other teams will have a bit of a mindset of, Dangerfield's played half a game, we're up by 40 points, we'll just rest him for the quarter.
Yeah.
And we'll see what happens. So
I think as well, like, that would bring the idea of, like, if someone... Like, let's say the Melbourne-St Kilda game from last year. Like, when Melbourne were up by 43 points, and I can't remember who they subbed out in that game, but imagine they were like, okay, we're taking off Max Gawn because he's our most important player, we need him. Let's say Melbourne were going to go for finals or something. You could take him off to rest him, but then in the last quarter, St Kilda are making their big charge back. So then you could bring Max Gawn back on because we need him.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be interesting to see the different mind games that the fifth player on the bench is going to be now, because I think... This would have to be the first time we've ever had 23 players in a team now.
Yeah.
Because we've always had 20. Well, for as far as I know, we've had 22 as a squad, as a team. Moving on from that, I wanted to take a look at some interesting commentary from David King today. So apparently he's been big on like going around clubs in pre-season and giving updates on that, and he's been pretty big on the Tigers today. I don't know if you saw this report.
Yeah, I did.
He said, at the Tigers, it's like visiting Nick Thorodosi's prestige cars. Everywhere you look, there's a Ferrari. There's another. I don't know what it means for the 2026 season, but if they stay healthy and can manage the kids' minutes, basically like 5 on the bench, look out, a top 10 is a chance. I think he's gone a bit early, I'll be real, but he's probably gone a bit overzealous to make the report sound as good as it is, but... I'm not saying the Tigers don't have some great kids going forward, but I think it's a bit too soon.
Not 2026. No.
You can't see a wild card spot from the Tigers?
No. I think it showed, there's a lot of players that we haven't seen. A Josh Smiley. We've hardly seen a Taj Houghton. A lot of that forward line have been there's not a lot of experience there. We saw when Tom Lynch went down and with suspension, there is not a lot of growth there yet. There's not a lot of experience there.
Yeah, well, when you look at from the last year, because I've been doing some stuff for the channel, like graphics and stuff, I looked at Richmond's top goal scorer from last year. It was Seth Campbell with 28. So
it's not enough.
That's not enough. And Tom Lynch, I think, was around the mark. He was in the mid-20s. But who's that guy who's going to go to 40, 50? I don't know if Seth Campbell has that in him, potentially. I mean, he's got some good talent. I can't see Tom Lynch being able to do it again. And their forward line for me, like, it's going to be good 3 years from now. It's going to be very good. Really good big team to watch. Their midfield still is like Taranto, Hopper, and then it kind of drops off from that point. Even Prestia. He's a bit old now. But and then obviously Nan Curvis, who's even getting older. Their defence is still their best line, and it's going to be interesting to see what the Tigers can do. Like, I think he's definitely been a bit overzealous here, but top 10 seems a bit far.
Yeah.
I mean, but they do have some great kids going around. You mentioned a couple of them already, and then Sam Lawler, full preseason, it looks like at the moment. I think he had a bit of an injury issue in preseason last year, if I can remember, like a hamstring. Still was able to make round 1, and then had that breakout game in round 1, and everyone's like, this is why he was pick 1. Like, oh, okay, we know this is Sam Lawler, and then had an issue last year with injury.
Yeah.
But very big watch for the Tigers from David King's point of view. I mean, not that I really love the Tigers, but I mean, it'd be very interesting. It'd be very good to watch them like just jump up the ladder all of a sudden. Basically, just gone from like the West Coast Eagles and North Melbourne, who have been down the bottom for quite a long time now. The Tigers just went bang and then straight back up again. It'd be like, yeah, well, maybe you don't need all that compensation, do you? I mean, big watch on the Tigers from David King's point of view. Now, before we move, probably our last footy part of this episode, we're going to be taking a look at the supplement players and pretty much the ones that are a big watch in the next month or so. I think clubs have to finalise their list in late February. Here it is. It is February the 20th. So that's just a month from now. So there are still a lot of players out there looking for the final spots on each list. At the Crows, you've got Zach Foote, who is a former Sydney Swan player, got delisted back in, I think it was 2021. He's been at the Southport Sharks for the VFL for quite a long time now. Just couldn't get a goal at the Swans, obviously back in the late 2020 or early 2020s, late 2019 era. It was kind of a rebuild time for the Swans. He just couldn't get a go and then got delisted from Sydney. Looks like Adelaide are looking at him at this moment. I don't know, it'll be interesting watch. Tom McGuan is also at Adelaide. Was overlooked by Collingwood, as we do remember. Did have an issue with an injury in November, I believe, but has come back and is still trying to find that last spot on Adelaide's list. To me, I wouldn't be surprised if they leave that spot open for an injury for a player, maybe in the mid-season, a few players. So I haven't heard too much from these two guys, like how they're going. So a bit of a watch there on Adelaide. We have a player that I want to mention in a minute, but we'll get to that in a sec. Carlton, they have Elijah Hollins, Will White, who won their 2K time trial, didn't he? Yeah. So he'll be back. Surely they sign him. If he wins their 2K time trial, he's doing everything to try and keep his spot. If the Blues go, sorry, I'd be like, oh, fuck you, bro. I just ran fucking 2K time trial, beat every single AFL listed player, and I still didn't get a spot on the list.
Yeah, you'd think that he gets a spot and he'll get one pretty soon, you'd think.
And Elijah Hollins, of course, was let go by the club, but then told he can go through training. From what I've heard on like reports, he has done very well so far in this period to try and get his spot back. But it's going to be tough after what's happened over the last year or so.
Yeah.
At Fremantle, they have Zach Harding, who is a 199 centimetre ruckman, who's set to play in Richmond's VFL side in 2026, but has been at Fremantle since late November. Bit of a watch there, but I would be a bit surprised if they picked up another ruckman. They have Mason Cox already there, maybe as a rookie because they did let Liam Reedy go.
I would be surprised though if they did pick him up anyway.
Yeah. They've got Chris Skerry as well. Only weeks before being invited out of Cockburn, he was picked up as Richmond's VFL side as well. Small forward who played for the Bull Ants last year, played 18 games and is trying to vie for a spot there, Fremantle's team, as a small forward. So, I mean, that could be a bit of a watch there as a small forward. I think more clubs now are looking at these players in the VFL, and that we saw, Zach Banch picked up by North Melbourne last year. Isaiah Dudley as well to Fremantle last year as well. These small forward guys who are, kick goals, may not have that body type just yet, but they can build off them. I wouldn't be surprised if maybe he gets picked up from Fremantle if need be. Now, this is one I wanted to talk about. So we go to Hawthorn, we look at Flynn Perez. Now, he was formerly on North Melbourne's list. They delisted him. Apparently, he has actually been cited by North Melbourne once again in Adelaide, along with Hawthorn. So if he doesn't get the go at Hawthorn, two other clubs are looking at him too. Had a very good season for the Double Blues Sturt last year in the Sandful, and looks like he'll get another go in my eyes. I think if three clubs are looking at you as an SSP recruit, wouldn't be surprised if he gets picked up.
Yeah. Do you think North Melbourne taking a chance?
If I'm him, if I've got the other two clubs looking at me, I'd be like, why the fuck did you delist me then? If you if I've gone back to the Sanford, which is the league below us, and then now you see the potential in me, I'm like, I'd be pretty fucked off. But I mean, if it's the only other option,
especially with all the same coaching staff at North Melbourne, it'd be like, so what's the difference now? With the same staff, you got the same coaches. What didn't you see before that you see now?
Yeah, I mean, if I'll be walking into Alistair Clarkson's office and be like, was there a reason why? I mean, you said all those things in the delisting meeting back then. What have I done at Sturtless last year? Did you just like me in the darker blue or something? Like, what the fuck is that? Anyway, another player at Hawthorn that they are looking to potentially sign is Ethan Stanley. Now, he was previously at the Dockers, but this was back in 2024. Didn't get on their list and went to Box Hill for 2025. Now, Box Hill is one of those clubs that a lot of people, Hawthorn do like to recruit out of. I mean, probably the most famous one in recent times is John Newcomb.
Yeah.
So Ethan Stanley could be an option there. But I feel like at this stage, Flynn Perez is the big watch there for the Hawks.
Yeah.
Next, we get to Port Adelaide. They've got 4 players they're looking at. They've got Jaden Stevenson. They've heard a lot of good things from him we've talked about that over the last few months. Haven't heard much as of late since Christmas, but he's been the big watch. Balin O'Brien is a Norwood product, has been linked to Alberton throughout the back end of last year. Played 6 Sandford games as a medium-sized defender, so could potentially be looked at for Port Adelaide as they've had a couple of players. I think they delisted one of those players in the off-season. It wasn't Logan Evans, it was the other one, which I can't think of it now. He wasn't, so that could be a watch. Mitch Zado, I like this name, but I don't know if he'll be picked up, but hopefully he does, just for the name itself. 21-year-old East Fremantle product, impressed up forward in the waffle across the 2025 campaign, kicking 15 goals in his last 10 matches. This effort saw him take out the Sharks' Rising Star Award last year, and given Port Adelaide's mass culling of small forwards, he could be an opportunity to get picked up. We also see Blake, don't know that name, Benia. North Adelaide product is considered one of the unluckier players not to find an AFL club in last year's draft, having won the Sandford Under-18s award for bottom ager in 2024, known for his penetrative kick. Is that penetrative? Yeah, well, that's a good word from me. You want to try and say that name? Ordshawn Benia.
That's how I'd say it.
I'm just calling him Bob because he's got B-O-B. That's his Bob. Bob looks like he could potentially be picked up as a bit of an unlucky option. So you've been hearing a lot. You've heard the stories about Jaden Stevenson and all that sort of stuff over this off season. You've kind of been on the side of like, there's no downside to just signing him as a rookie.
No, there's not. I think out of the 4, Jaden Stevenson's probably the one that Port Adelaide will pick up. And as you said before with the list spots, I wouldn't be surprised if the other 3 we didn't pick up and we've picked up Jaden Stevenson and leave the other 3 open. Or maybe pick up one of them and leave 2 spots open for the mid-season.
So you got 2 small forwards there and a medium defender. What would be like a Port Adelaide one for you?
I'd probably say the defender.
Yeah.
I think there's no harm in taking another defender. We've lost a couple of players over the last couple of years of defenders. We haven't brought in a lot.
Ryan Burton was the player.
Yeah, Ryan Burton. Yeah. I think that it wouldn't be surprising if the defender's the one we pick up, but I think Port Adelaide would leave at least one or two vacant spots on the list.
Yeah, because a lot of the reason why teams leave those spots vacant is if they want to pick someone up in the mid-season draft. So that's why they probably leave them open for now. Moving to Richmond, we've got Tom Burton, a hard-working Western Jets product who looks capable of providing plenty at the top level if given the chance after being overlooked in last year's draft. This is at the Tigers. So he's talent league last season and is even highly touted by his draft counterparts, including Zeke Hewland, saying that he thinks that Burton is pretty fast, dynamic off of half back. He's quick, he's rapid, and puts pace on the game. So I think that's definitely a need in AFL nowadays. So that could be a watch there as like a half backer. We've got, what's that name? Marcus Krasnodon, far out. MK, like Philly SSP train on Tom Burton. He is a Eastern Rangers ruckman. So the Tigers, I wouldn't be too surprised if they're looking at maybe another ruckman as well with Nankervis. Being on the outer, well, not on the outer, but being a bit younger, being older now. There has been talks that they would look at another ruckman in the trade period. I wouldn't be too surprised if they look at that in the 2026 off season. There's a couple of options out there. I would say you got Ned Moyle, probably the big one. I would say, who doesn't really get a go. That would be a watch there. On St Kilda, Tex Wanganeen. So 5 games at Essendon. Of course, a massive name, the Wanganeen name. Has been training with St Kilda, a close friend of Nasai Wanganeen-Miller from back in his junior days in SA. Wanganeen has been forced to overcome multiple shoulder injuries in recent months, though St Kilda are believed to still be very keen on him. Oscar Ainsworth is another one here at St Kilda, a hot streak in front of goal in the Talent League last year, as Ainsworth looks to provide a shot at an AFL contract after being unselected in the draft year. The Western Jets product kicked 21 goals from a dozen matches in underage competition and plays the medium-sized forward. A hamstring strain pre-Christmas temporarily halted his progress, but the 18-year-old will be looking to return to the track in shape for St Kilda's rest of their pre-season. So those are the players that are still looking for a spot on an AFL list. There's been a couple of other ones circulating around, but most of them now, I would say that like AFL players that want to get back on a list have already signed with a state league or lower than state league club. So I think there was a couple like Ryan Burton, for example. I saw he's playing, I think, for Southport now. There's another one as well. There was the Richmond one, Jacob Blight. I thought maybe he would be looked at by a couple of clubs, but he's playing for Subiaco now in the Waffle. So there are a couple of players still vying for spots on AFL lists at this moment in time. None for Sydney, so I don't really have any insight on that. But Jaden Stevenson, you think's the one who Port Adelaide will sign if they do?
Yeah, I think that's a pretty obvious one in my opinion. I think at his best, we saw how good he is.
Yeah, I mean, he won a Rising Star.
Yeah,
and Flynn Perez probably the pick of the bunch. That's, I mean, he has been an AFL listed player in the past as well, but he's got interest in multiple clubs. But guys, that's pretty much all we have for the footy talk this episode. Like I mentioned briefly, I think in this episode, I did mention it in the main channel video as well. We are posting on Instagram and TikTok a lot more, and we're going to be doing that throughout the year. And one thing we will be doing is like exclusive content on those platforms is my brother yawning because I'm so boring.
Sorry.
Anyway, I think it's going to be daily news updates on the channel. It's like a TikTok. I've seen like a couple of content creators in like soccer spaces and that do that with like videos. I don't think the AFL has enough news content, to be honest, to do a daily news program on the footy. But I think a TikTok sort of platform and Instagram would actually be good for it. So we've already started doing that basically every day or two, as there's not that much news at this stage. But make sure to go check them out on Instagram and TikTok. They're always linked down below, and just even just leave your comment down below, your thoughts on it, what would improve it, and that sort of stuff. Like I said, or even just leave a comment down on the bottom of this podcast, and I think they have it on Spotify somewhere now too. Well, let's move on. We'll move to a bit of world sport. First of all, after the Big Bash is still going on in Australia, Sixers knocked out the Heat. So now it's the Scorchers, Sixers, Hurricanes, and the Stars in the finals.
Yeah.
Have you been following it much, or have you kind of fallen off it?
No, I have. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think if it was my pick, I'd pick the Sixers still.
Even though they nearly missed out on finals?
Yeah, but they're second. They only have to win 2 games and they'll win it.
What do you think of the whole Bubba v Smith debacle?
Oh, I think it's a bit of a overreaction, but from Bubba. I think, yes, he's a world-class player, but it's shown that also Smith can go up in the gears. Same with Bubba, but,
I think obviously every Australian's going to be like, yeah, fucking Smith's the greatest, Bubba's an asshole, all that sort of stuff, and I get it. Like, we want to protect our own. But I do think, because obviously if you don't know what happened, basically I think one of the big catalysts that started it all was Smith hit the ball down the ground. I think it was like long on. Was that long on? Yeah, long on. Sorry, I know cricket, but the positions every now and then I kind of mess up. Hit it down to long on, and it was an easy single, but he said to Bubba, no, I'm not going, because he wanted to face the bowler from the next over.
To start the power surge. And then, that was pretty disrespectful. And look, on face value, I would kind of agree with him. Because it's like, I'm a world-class batsman. Like, if I'm Bubba, I'm a world-class batsman as well. I can hit this guy.
But then Smith kind of got the last laugh because he hit the over for 32, or something. So yeah, it was like okay, it was like a bit of a fuck you, bro. I did hit 32 off him, and then the next over, Bubba came, faced the first ball, and got bowled. So yeah, that's what I think one of the controversies came out. And then we've seen Muhammad Rizwan as well come out against the BBL and the Renegades, saying that there was disrespect put on his name or something.
Yeah, do you know?
So I don't really know what happened here.
So it all happened I think it's like 2 games before the season for the Renegades finished. And Rizwan was going pretty much less than runnable. And Will Sutherland subbed himself in because the new rule now is that you can sub out a player or retire out and bring in another player. And the captain and Will Sutherland decided he's going to take the role.
Yeah, I do remember.
And comes in and he gets run out after the first bowl. After I think he played 2 balls and he gets run out or he gets bowled or he gets out, and it's like, so you just completely screwed it.
Yeah.
So then that's what happened, and things like, well, you know, I'm the import player, I'm the money buyer, you know, all of that sort of stuff. That's disrespectful, and that's how it's all happened.
Yeah. But I mean, to be fair, Will Sutherland. To be fair to Will Sutherland, wasn't it only a few games before that he won the game off his own bat?
Yeah. So technically, yeah.
And you are the import. Put some respect on your name, but also, why are you hitting less than a run a ball? Your reason you're there is to hit runs, hit them quicker. You're playing T20 cricket, bro.
Well, the thing is, it's really funny. Looking at, I think like the 3 lowest strike rates out of a team, like players who've scored over 100 runs or something like that for the entire tournament. The 3 lowest was Sam Consis at 111 strike rate or 100 and something. Same with Bubba, and then same with Rizwan. So all 3 of them haven't been able to get into the tournament all season.
Yeah.
So, you know, I can see why they're a bit angry with what's been happening, but also, you know, these teams are trying to win to get finals.
Yeah.
You know, these players, Australian players, are trying to get into that T20 squad, into those World Cup squads, getting shown around the world. Because the Big Bash actually is a big televised event around the world. You know, some people rate this tournament sometimes even better than the IPL in some respects, or just below the IPL.
Well, I mean, the IPL, the big thing that the IPL like kind of gets headlines for is for the contracts that they play these players.
Yeah,
like the Big Bash. Like, don't get me wrong, I mean, the IPL is very good, but the Big Bash as well brings like the cricket to it. It's more about the cricket
because you don't hear about what the.
I mean, when do you barely hear about the results that happen in the IPL unless you like go to look for it.
Yeah,
you hear about the money that like Cam Green's getting paid the highest out of any Australian.
But you don't win our auction for our mega auction for the
we still
BBL.
do that?
Yeah, but we don't do any we're not doing it on prices on like how much we're paying them. So that's put behind the scenes behind Cricket Australia. We don't actually know how much the import's getting paid. So, you know,
maybe we should make it interesting because fucking who gives a fuck about our draft thing that we have.
But yeah, it's interesting to see that these players are feeling like they're being disrespected for.
Interesting to see if they come back.
Yeah, I don't think they will.
Yeah,
no.
Which would hamper the tournament, so also, in more than one way. Like, yes, it would be like less imports, less big names, but also that means that like the quality could be less people will go because there's not those big names there. So they do kind of hold the power, these big imports.
It is interesting because obviously we've seen through the Ashes crowds and even the Big Bash crowds, it's been one of the highest attended sports all year, like all summer, to be honest, and ever around cricketing terms. So it is interesting to see how much they do hold because, you know, England comes along and we pass every attendance record.
Yeah.
Same with the Big Bash in a lot of ways.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see what happens in the cricket going forward. Last thing I want to talk about on cricket point of view was the Qantas T20 tour of Pakistan squad. And from what I understand, this is basically the squad they're going to go into with the T20 World Cup.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
So the squad has Mitch Marsh, of course, as the captain, Sean Abbott, Xavier Bartlett, Marley Beardman. Who's that?
Fast bowler for Perth Scorchers.
Okay. Cooper Connolly, Ben Dorshus, Jack Edwards, Cameron Green, Travis Head, Josh Inglis, Matthew Kuhneman, Mitchell Owen, Josh Philippi, Matt Renshaw, Matt Short, Marcus Stoinis, and Adam Zampa. So is Glenn Maxwell just not in the squad?
I think he's got a slight injury.
So he probably makes the T20 squad.
Yeah, him and... Is Cummins in that team? No.
Not in that
Yeah,
team.
so Cummins, him and Maxwell and Hazelwood should be coming back into that squad. I think, so this is the fine-tuning of the squad.
So
Before.
basically everyone else, these ones here, most of them are going to be in the team, but some of them are fighting for those last few spots.
Yeah, so you're fighting for what, two fast bowling stocks and who's the other one? Maxwell. You know, I think Maxwell comes in because it's in Sri Lanka, India.
Yeah. And even though he's not been in great form this Big Bash campaign, he's like he's
turn
got
it
runs
on.
on the board.
Yeah, he's one that you can just put him in and he can score you 150 on a day.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty much all the cricket stuff I was going to talk about. So let's move to finally the Premier League. And I mean, Arnie, there's been a lot of more talk, and I know you've been pretty adamant that he's going to stay, but the slot talk of him being sacked is getting a little bit higher now.
Especially with the result on the weekend, which should never have happened.
Yeah.
Did you see what that goal that Burnley scored?
Yeah, that was...
It was a cracker.
Yeah, it was a good goal, but like Liverpool dominated. They should
Yeah.
have won this game against Burnley. They've dropped points against every single. I think they've drawn against every single promotion team this campaign.
Yeah,
Which
it's
is
the
just drop points you can't do.
It's the first time since 1980-81 season that Liverpool haven't banked 3 points against any of the promoted teams.
Yeah, not great.
No.
But let's move to the results of the weekend. And first of all, the Manchester Derby, United win against City. So is Michael Carrick just the guy now?
Well, now they're saying it's like, sign him permanently. Like, he played one game, coming off the... Well, not...
It was a response, basically.
It was a response, yes. It came off the FA Cup break and...
They got players back too
Yeah.
from the African Cup of Nations,
Yeah.
AFCON. So we'll talk about that in a sec as well. But yeah, good win for United though. They kind of needed it to stay in touch. And even though Ruben Amorim got sacked, there's still a chance to make European football next year.
I think they're fifth, aren't they? I think
They're currently in fifth spot, so that's a Europa League spot. So they're still in a pretty good position at this moment. Chelsea won against Brentford 2-0 in Rosnier's first game as manager for Chelsea. Leeds won 1-0 over Fulham with a late strike that got them over the line. Doesn't look like they're going to get relegated either.
No, it's down to I think a top. Well, besides Wolves, which they're getting there, but they're gone. But it's the other three teams.
Yeah, there's about 3 or 4 teams that are around the mark at the moment. There's 2 teams above the zone and 2 in there. Liverpool 1-1 draw against Burnley. What are they doing? Sunderland winning 2-1 over Crystal Palace, and Crystal Palace have just fallen in a heap. Apparently their manager could be out the door before the end of the season as well. So just all a bit of a shitstorm there. Tottenham losing against West Ham 2-1 away. What are they doing, Tottenham? Sorry, that was away for West Ham. How do you look? You have to win that.
Yeah.
Like Ange Postecoglou's sitting there right now, rubbing his hands, just going, "That's what you get for fucking sacking me."
It wasn't me.
He was, exactly. He was there. He won them the first trophy in 20 years. And I know at the time everyone was like, me and us included, we were like, it's pretty tough for him to hold his job. How he was going to the Premier League, finishing 17th. But at the end of the day, he got them there. They walk through their doors every day. The last trophy they have is a Europa League trophy. They're not going to get anything like that this year.
No.
And then Nottingham Forest drawing 0-0 against Arsenal was big for both. Obviously, really negative for Arsenal.
Yeah, but I think it was they did it on a lucky weekend because that no other teams won in the top 4.
They were lucky.
They were done it on a lucky week. They were lucky this weekend.
Yeah. One team in particular in a second. Wolves did get that 0-0 draw against Newcastle when Newcastle, they weren't exactly dominant. Wolves did pretty well and got a point. And I don't know if you saw the story, but apparently I think it was the owner of Wolverhampton recently saw, it was at the Pope or something, handed him a Wolverhampton jersey and blessed it or something. And since then they haven't dropped points. They haven't lost a game, I think, in the last few weeks.
Pretty good.
So, maybe someone's just looking down on them. Maybe they resurrect their season out of absolutely nothing from the ashes, rise up to 17.
If they avoid relegation, if they avoid it, probably the biggest escape ever.
Yeah, it would have to be.
Yeah.
I mean, probably be up there, not so much because Luton Town, no one expected them to do it, but they actually had a pretty good season for a team that just rose up. It'd be probably up there with Luton Town because everyone expected them to finish 20th and potentially even be worse than the Derby record of 10 points or 8 points in a whole season.
Yeah.
So that would be a big story here because we'll get to the ladder in a moment, but yeah, they've been way out of it for a while. And finally, Everton winning 1-0 over Aston Villa. So that was the team I was mentioning a minute ago. You can't drop points there. At home against Everton,
No.
Arsenal slip up to lose 2 points with a draw. Have to win that.
Yeah, and did you hear Emery's press conference after?
No.
He's saying that we're not playing like we're third on the ladder. We're playing pretty mid-table performances at the moment.
Well, I've got to say, this year, other than Arsenal, and even then they drop a point, but other than Arsenal, everyone else is, shit the bed.
Yes.
Already, throughout the campaign. Chelsea was up there for a minute. People were like, this could be the chance where Chelsea can challenge against Arsenal, and they drop 3 games, and then Maresca loses his job. You got City, who were up around the mark with Pep Guardiola, and then they've just dropped 8 or 9 points in the last 3 weeks. And then Liverpool obviously starting the campaign with 5 wins in a row. Even though they weren't really convincing, everyone was like, oh, they're going to do it again. And they've shit the bed now, and then Arne Slot could lose his job. You got Aston Villa, like we've been talking about. They were a dark horse, and then they dropped points against Everton. United, no one expects them to do much at the moment. So if Arsenal were to lose it from here, it would be everyone laughs at them second. They've won the title for second the last 2 years running. This would be the ultimate choke.
Yeah.
Because no one wants this title. No one wants it.
No.
Who wants this title? You look at the teams around the mark. You've got City, Villa, Liverpool, United, Chelsea, and then Brentford. Brentford, if they got some decent points at the start of the campaign, they're 17 points away from Arsenal, they'd be around the mark. But even then, they drop against Chelsea, a 2-0 loss. So no one wants it. Arsenal have to win it from here.
Yeah.
I'm putting it on them. I'm putting the burner on them now. They have to win it. There's no way, because everyone else just keeps on shitting the bed. They have to. Looking at the rest of the table, so like we said, Arsenal up the top, 7-point leaders over City with 43 points. Aston Villa equal with City, of course. Could have actually been in second spot if they won, or even a draw. Liverpool dropped down to 4th spot from 7 points away from them. So it's pretty much a 3-horse race at this moment. Moving to Manchester United in 5th spot, then Chelsea in 6th, Brentford 7th, Newcastle in 8th, equal with Sunderland in 9th. So Sunderland, they have been a great story. We have to say that. Yeah. They've done really well. Everton in 10th, moving to the second half of the table. We've got Fulham in 11th, Brighton in 12th, Crystal Palace, like I said, they've crapped the bed. They've done they've dropped their bundle. They've dropped to 13th now. Tottenham, with Ange Postecoglou sitting there just saying, suck a dick. They're in 14th. Bournemouth are in 15th, who have just dropped the bundle as well. Leeds are in 16th with 25 points. Nottingham Forest are in 17th with 22 points. Then we move to the relegation zone. West Ham 18th, Burnley 19th, Wolverhampton are in 20th with 8 points. But I think they've got 4 points in their last 2 games. They have, where's the form? No, they've actually got, in their last 4 games, they have got 6 points. So that's, pretty good. Looking at the form guide, though, Crystal Palace have the worst form, losing 3 of their last 5 games, and the other 2 games being draws. So Crystal Palace have just dropped it. Looking at the form guide, though, Arsenal probably had the best of form at the moment. Brentford are in second. Manchester United undefeated in their last 5 games, but 3 of those being draws, so not ideal. Liverpool, by the way, 5 games without a loss, but 4 of them have been draws.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's going to be interesting to watch if Arne Slot does keep his job from here. But looking at that relegation battle, it's, I think, between 4. It's Leeds above the relegation zone with Nottingham Forest, and then you got West Ham inside the zone with Burnley. I think the Burnley are probably gone. They're 8 points away, and yes, they got a point against Liverpool, but I can't see them being able to consistently score enough goals to get themselves out. I actually trust Wolverhampton's striking line or their scoring line more than Burnley.
Yeah, it's been that problem every time they come into the Premier League, Burnley. They just can't seem to find a way to score in the Premier League.
Yeah.
And, that's been their problem.
Yeah, and then you've got West Ham. Before the weekend of games, I would have said they're gone. But now they get a win against Tottenham. Not exactly a massive deal, but it gets them 3 points. And they do have a couple of players who you're like, you can kind of see them doing something for them. I think obviously the big one's probably Jared Bowen.
Yeah.
But I feel like they can get out. But the problem is, Nottingham Forest, a team they're in the Europa League. That's probably been a big hamper on their season. And they've also got Sean Dyche leading them, who's just notorious for just keeping his team outside of the relegation zone.
Yeah.
He's usually very good at it. He basically just sits there in a cryogenic chamber every single winter in England, just ready to be picked up by a club that needs to help get him out of the relegation zone. Him and used to be Sam Allardyce before he fucked up with Leeds, and then he got kicked out of that job. And then the other one is Leeds. Like, I can't see them being able to get kicked out now.
No, I think they've got enough points in the bank to hold the battle.
Yeah. I mean, they've got. I can't believe I'm saying this. They've got Dominic Calvert-Lewin. He's done enough. I think he can keep him out of it. So, yeah, right now, who do you think's getting relegated? Do you think who? I mean, I think we bank Wolverhampton and Burnley. I can't see them getting out.
I think at the moment, if they don't change their manager, I think it's going to be West Ham.
You think it is?
I think it's
last week you said you think they get out.
I think they. I think somehow Nottingham Forest find a way to win a few games when maybe they don't expect to do it. And Leeds, they seem like they've got enough. Allen Road is a hard place to play in some ways, and to get it in a way to win at home, Leeds seem like they can do it.
Yeah, I feel like Leeds have got enough to get points at home, enough points to just keep them out. Nottingham Forest, for me, I think are the danger team. But I personally think that Nottingham Forest are the team to drop, and West Ham get out. I can't see a big team like West Ham getting dropped. It would be interesting to watch, though. So we're in match. We've had 22 games between every team pretty much so far. So big watch on the Premier League as well. But guys, that's pretty much all we've got for this episode of the Boundary Riders podcast, episode 143. Thank you for listening and watching. If you did enjoy it, make sure to leave a like and subscribe over on YouTube. And over on Spotify, make sure to leave us 5 stars and make sure to follow so you're notified on the podcast every single week. But again, guys, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. We'll catch you all next week.
See you later, guys.